Chapter 4. If he offers candy, don't take it. Benny and I stood on the corner of Camel Street and Alpaca Way, waiting for the bus. The sidewalks had been shoveled and were clear of snow. I breathed out slowly and watched the mist disappear in the cold March air. Benny and I stood away from the other kids so we could talk in relative privacy. "So how are we going to get Juanita?" my brother asked. I looked at him in surprise. "What are you talking about? We're not going to get Juanita. You heard Dad. We have to stay away from her." "How come?" Benny asked. "We're superheroes. Fighting supervillains is what we do." Have you forgotten we got worthless powers?" I asked Benny in a low voice. He didn't look too happy at being reminded. "We have to wait for Grandpa and Dad to figure out what the Johnsons have done. Once we get our real powers, then we can worry about Juanita." Benny scowled. "I still think we can handle her." The bus came and we climbed on board. Mike Slade, one of my best friends, waved me over to his seat. We hadn't sat together on the bus for at least a year. I didn't know why he'd chosen today to have me sit by him, but I walked over feeling pleased. I missed talking to him. "Hey, Rafter," Mike said. "Sorry I wasn't waving at you. I was waving at Skylar behind you." My face turned red. "Yeah," I said. "I knew that. I just wanted to say hi." "Oh," Mike said. "Hi." I walked to the back of the bus and sat by Benny, my face still burning. Mike and I used to hang out all the time, but then things changed when I learned about my family secret. Mike's dad is a police officer, and the police don't really like superheroes. We fight crime for free, and in fact, with the exception of the Johnsons, there aren't a lot of criminals left in our city. Bad guys know if they do something wrong, they're going to get caught. A lot of people have even said we don't need police anymore. So while I was looking forward to becoming a superhero like my dad, Mike saw his dad always worrying about his job. Mike never suspected I was a superhero, but it was hard to hear him saying nasty things about superheroes, about my family. Being a superhero can be lonely. Luckily, I had Benny. "Did you know," I realized that my brother was talking to me, "that lumberjacks can grow facial hair at 3 times the normal speed of a regular man?" I wasn't sure what to say. "I don't think that's right. Where did you hear that?" "I read it in a book." Benny tapped my arm. "This is Juanita's stop." 2 boys and a girl climbed on the bus, but Juanita was nowhere in sight. Benny leaned over and whispered in my ear, Maybe she got flying, and she doesn't need to take the bus." I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. We rode the rest of the way in silence. The bus stopped at our school and we climbed off. Benny and I got off last. Benny bent over to tie his shoelace and the bus pulled away. Something across the street caught my attention. "Hey," I said, pointing. "Look at that guy over there." A man stood across the street behind a tree. He looked silly because the trunk wasn't more than a few inches thick. In fact, the whole tree was probably only 8 feet tall. Benny and I could see him clearly. He wore a trench coat over a pair of striped pajamas, and his nose was red from the cold. He had a large stocking cap and a fake beard. I could see the elastic strap that kept the hairy mass pressed against his face. "Stranger danger," Benny hissed. "If he offers candy, don't take it." I didn't expect the man to offer us candy. A single word went through my head. Johnson. The man stepped away from the tree and walked towards us. He held something out in front of him, pointing it directly at me and Benny. I pulled Benny behind me and then got a better look at the object in the man's hand. I let out a breath. "It's a phone," I said, moving backwards, pushing Benny towards the school. "Is he a Johnson?" Benny asked. "Not one I recognize," I said. "Maybe he's from out of town." The man punched a button on his phone. He was now close enough that I heard it beep. The man peered at the phone and then threw back his head and laughed. It only took a second for me to understand. Somehow, that phone told me what our powers were. My face grew hot. "Come on," I said, grabbing Benny by the arm. "Let's get to school." "What just happened?" Benny asked. "What did he do?" "That was a Johnson." I shook my fist long and hard, and it means I was right at breakfast. He had some sensor on his phone, one that told him that what our powers were. That's why he was laughing. The villains messed up our powers, and they sent somebody down here to make sure it worked. The man still howled with laughter behind us. I resisted the urge to turn around and chase him down. What would I do if I caught him? He wasn't wearing any polyester. I didn't have any matches. An electronic buzzer cut through the air. First period. "Remember what Dad said," I told Benny. "Keep to public places, hang out in the library during recess, and stay in class. Just because Juanita wasn't on the bus doesn't mean she's not here." Benny gave me a thumbs up. "Piece of cake," he said, and turned and left for class. I left for history. When history was finished, I braced myself. I walked into algebra, ready for anything. My stomach felt all twisted up inside. But Juanita wasn't in her seat when I got there, and she wasn't there when I left. In fact, I didn't see her at all that day. The twisted feeling in my stomach grew worse.